Tell me about the Acolyte.
I'm sorry, just you asking me that question is making me cry.
Is it? That's all right.
Yeah.
It is a big deal to a lot of people. It affects people in different ways, and this is your story, so.
What I was interested in examining were the Sith. The master-apprentice dynamic.
If the apprentice is craving the master's power, then at some point he must recruit his apprentice to overthrow the master.
Yeah.
And that is the Acolyte.
Right.
Who trained you?
You don't wake up thinking you're evil or that you're the bad guy, as explored by George and Anakin.
Yeah, I don't think Anakin ever thinks he becomes evil.
I agree,
life,
and I think
you know?
a lot of the characters in the Acolyte have to convince themselves that they are
Doing the right thing.
They're doing the right thing.
I just jumped on the opportunity to be able to do my own stunts.
많은 동작들을 제가 하고 싶었고요.
It takes a whole family to make a stunt sequence.
The first thing that Leslie said to me when I first met her is that she wanted to incorporate a lot of wuxia and kung fu and samurai flair into the action of the Acolyte.
Working with the stunt team from a ground up type of progression.
그래서 스턴트 팀들과 함께 굉장히 많은 이야기를 나누게 됐고 또 연습도 함께 많이 하면서
Being an actor, you're really just a small part of a much larger team. We started learning the choreography sequences for the big fight in the noodle shop. That was such a rewarding fight sequence to learn because I, in kind of one fell swoop, learned a lot of the fundamental pieces that I would use later in the shoot.
We wanted the stranger to move very differently from what we've seen in the prequels and in the original trilogy. We really wanted it to be very fluid, and we wanted him to move like something we've never seen before. Like he was quick yet powerful, but also sneaky. I insisted that I do most of my stunts. I just need to be able to do this once so that if my kids watch it, I can be like, I did that.
And even with training, you wear a mask, we can't really see the tiny bit. It's easy to kill your stomach really quick, hard breathing, and he is working really hard. He just wearing the mask, just use the vision. So that earned me a lot of respect. I think he put a lot of effort for this role.
스턴트 팀들이 정말 고생 많았고 그리고 또 너무나도 즐거운 현장이었고 같이 함으로써 아주 멋진 장면들을 잘 끝마칠 수 있었던 것 같아요.
I wanted to do everything, and luckily enough, the stunt team, they appeased my wants.
Cut. Nice.
Training for the Acolyte was really challenging. Today I feel a tad like a truck hit me. It was very important to me that the show feel visceral and that the fight sequences feel jaw-dropping.
There's very high energy, high octane stunt work. What they've done to create these fights is insane.
We took the heavy martial arts, the hand-to-hand combat, all the different styles, and mixed them together to build these sequences.
We use Taekwondo, karate, Krav Maga, Western boxing.
It is some of the craziest fights.
It's very powerful.
This is pretty special.
This is the Clone Wars!
Yeah, no kidding.
Ahsoka was such an interesting character to me.
When we started, we had it very much a shell shock moment for her that she was out of her depth. And I'll never forget it. George watching it and saying, you guys are taking this a bit too seriously. He went on to explain that, even at a young age, she's not out of her depth for any of this.
I had a similar experience with the character Jecki. There was a note from somebody that was, wouldn't she be scared on her first mission? And I remember you telling me about that story.
Jedi training has to be valuable. It prepares them for the galaxy.
Jecki is a young, devoted Padawan who's very talented and wise beyond her years.
Master Soul,
Yord Vandar is a committed Jedi Knight, invested into the Council, to the Republic, and the forward movement of peace and justice.
I love my cast.
each of them embody their characters perfectly.
I play May and Osha. They're twins. Osha lives now as a mech and has been shielded from some of the realities of her childhood. May is very connected to the coven of witches that she was raised within. Mama! Loyalty to her family is the most important thing in the world to her. Star Wars is about the light and dark side of the Force. I thought that this idea of contrast and difference was so interesting, and so I decided to make them very different from each other.
I have a high-level philosophy for designing overall the costumes for the Acolyte. My starting point and my inspiration really goes back to when I had the opportunity to go up to Skywalker Ranch and to see Trisha Bigger's costumes was so inspiring, so educational for me.
I actually thought it was going to be more challenging wearing the same clothing and hair as Osha when playing May, but when it came to the clothes, it didn't really matter what the clothes were because they would just wear them differently on their bodies. We made very subtle tweaks, me and Jennifer Bryant, our wonderful costume designer.
Maybe he brought you here to face yourself. We need to catch up.
Our costume designer is just unbelievable at the detailed work that she does, the care and efforts that she puts in behind it. You can find a lot of Easter eggs built into a lot of the costumes.
So the advantage that I had was the timeline. I wasn't necessarily adhered to a lot of the characters that we know in Star Wars because in our timeline, it gave me a fresh and a keener palette.
Jennifer Bryant, our costume designer, she created this beautiful silhouette for the stranger. When it moved, it was very much just like water. It added to the mystery of the stranger and how he was moving and you didn't know what he was.
Who are you?
What I love about costume design is the really wide scope of your imagination that you just get to use. From ancient times to science fiction and everything in between. It's just so fun to just like explore all of that and put that into clothing.
I have 2 Jedi to kill after Torben.
I need a drink. We meet Kaimir as a former smuggler, former trader. He spends most of his time in the apothecary, maybe drinking a little too much, maybe sleeping a little too much. He is trying to find his way and ends up being reluctantly pulled into this mission with May and her master.
마스터 소울은 포스가 아주 강한 그런 제다이면서 기본적으로 마음이 따뜻한 그런 캐릭터입니다. 그런데 의문의 사건을 만나게 되면서 그 사건을 해결하는 과정에서 나타나는 진실들과 함께 마음의 변화가 굉장히 크게 유동치는 그런 캐릭터입니다.
Why do you keep old hollows of your former Padawan?
If you don't meditate on the past,
We're doomed to repeat it.
Vernestra Rowe is a revered elder Jedi master attempting to contain the events of the series as best she can.
May targeted these 3.
4, including you, Sol.
Mother Anastasia, she's strong and powerful, fiercely protective of her family, her coven, her children, doing her best to preserve their way of life.
Surprise.
Initially learning about the duality of Kaimir and the stranger, I was ecstatic. I joke that I don't know if I'd be able to top this role ever, and maybe I should retire.
Let me go!
What you're feeling right now, this anger, this pain, this is who you are.
It honestly is, a dream role for any actor to be able to tackle because of the complexities of both characters, and you get to just show a spectrum of different personality traits and characteristics, and it was such a fulfilling thing to do.
Taking on something like Star Wars can be really intimidating. They never showed that. They threw themselves completely into the project, and if it meant sitting through a lot of makeup, they were happy to do that. If it meant hours of fight choreography or training, they did that. It's just the best cast I ever could have hoped for.
He's here.
was your favorite scene to film?
I loved the action sequence. The fight that I have with Amandala.
Your power and your use of the Force in the fight is like, it's a whole other character. It adds so much to it. You are a strong, wise Jedi.
I freaked out every time I got on a ship. You know?
Okay, why?
Because I was on a ship. Oh my God, I'm on a Star Wars ship, and now I get to beep, bop, boop, bop, beep, boop, boop, press the button.
Yes, all the buttons.
Turn it,
all the screens.
all at once.
Yes.
Because that's what good pilots do.
I think the greatest part about Star Wars is that they have incredible characters, and, you know, every generation just sees themselves in them.
It's really nice to be a part of that. It was insane. It's Star Wars.
Or do not.
Do or do not, there's no try. That's like, if you're trying, you're not actually doing it.
I had to do that with Acolyte for sure. My agreement with myself was whenever it overwhelms you that you're doing your dream, you just have to do it. Honestly, the times that I felt the most worried was not the special effects, the fighting choreography. It was the emotional stuff.
These things that George understood about filmmaking, understood about iconography, are things that we still try to tap into.
It's the Western. It's the samurai film. It has to feel elevated, but it also has to feel like Star Wars. Basically, what George created, it's the North Star.
What are you?